think we got enough. 1, 2, 3, 4. Rules ordered a meeting. Melvina, can you do the invocation real quick? Not real quick.
Edoda kalandi he jalali chisan kohig deski altino. Nivna dejadosta hellido has ninigard di danto de hita. Used on dante lidon. Nihu iskayoni do has to you've done it. Father, we thank you for this day. We just thank you for all your blessing. Thank you, Lord, for bringing us back together again. Lord, I just ask you to be with each and every one. You're the master and you're in control. Lord, in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Shelley, roll call.
Yes, sir. Mike Shambaugh, Joe Deere,
Connie.
Keith Austin, here. Danny Callison, here. Julia Coates, Sean Crittenden, Mike Dobbins, here. Rex Jordan, Johnny Kidwell, Daryl Legg, here. Wes Snowfire, Dora Petskowski, here. Joshua Sam, Melvina Shotpouch, E.O. Smith, here. Condessa Teehee, Victoria Vasquez. We have a quorum.
All right, thank you. Everybody had a chance to look at the minutes, so can we get our approval of the minutes? All right, all in favor? Aye. All right, that's going to take us into our reports. Marshal Shannon Buell.
Good afternoon. Besides my monthly report, there's a couple things I want to go over real quick. First, since McGirt, last night my team recovered our 6th human trafficking victim. So that's huge in our realm. It takes a lot of investigations, a lot of time on the street to hunt those victims and find them. So that's the 6th one we got was last night. So that's exciting. I want to speak for a minute on Brian Ketcher. Brian Ketcher was a deputy marshal here. He was here for 18 years. He started in patrol, went to investigations. He was on our special operations team as an explosive breacher. 2 years ago, he got diagnosed with cancer. So for 2 years, he fought it. And for 2 years, he had come to work. And he passed 2 weeks ago. We buried him Thursday, gave him full marshal honors for that. But I want to be very clear from his wife, Randy Ketcher. She works at my office as well in administration, and his 2 kids and his family. They don't want you to feel sorry for Brian. Brian's a warrior. And a quote that I'd like to say is George Patton, General Patton, on talking about the death of his warriors during World War II. He said, "It is foolish and wrong to mourn the men who died, whether we should thank God that such men lived." And I agree with that. We should not mourn Brian. He was a warrior to the end. He fought for his tribe, he fought for his victims, and he fought against cancer. And in my opinion, he won. So with that, if there's any questions for this month, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Does anybody have any questions? Victoria?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Hi, Marshall. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm aware of allegations on social media by Attorney Brian Shade that our Secretary of State, Tina Glory Jordan, used her office position to represent clients to take the land of Cherokee citizens through adverse possession. Have you had an occasion to investigate those allegations?
Yes, I have. One of my roles as the Marshal for Cherokee Nation, especially around election time, is I look at any high-level, either politician, council person, chief, deputy chief, whatever, or any high-level cabinet member, and I get assigned those investigations. So any allegations of impropriety, illegal actions that come to my office, we evaluate those. With reference to the Secretary of State, we had allegations that she used her position to take tribal members' land in adverse possession. So I investigated that. I spoke to all the people that were involved, including Brian Shade that brought the allegations to Facebook, and several other people that had information. I will tell the council right now that there is no evidence that the Secretary of State did anything inappropriate, illegal, or immoral while holding her office. I want to be very clear of that. I also want to be clear that I don't answer to the Secretary of State. She's not in my chain of command. Neither are you, and neither is the chief of the Cherokee Nation. That's why I'm the one. That's why when the Constitution was written that I am separate from administration, I'm separate from council, because we have to have somebody to look at that. But I can tell you right now with no uncertainty that there is no indication that the Secretary of State did anything illegal during her position. I want to be very clear. So,
I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing. Thank you, Chair.
Does anybody else have anything for Marshall Buell? Yes, no fire.
Hey, Mr. Buell, just on that investigation, just kind of thinking about over, in your position or powers, if you do see something that would be alarming and you needed assistance on that, you have your powers and capability of turning that over to the feds, right? In order
oh
to
yeah,
be able to have
we
the
would.
assistance.
If I had any allegations of any council person, I want to be very clear that council, chief, deputy chief, cabinet members, if I had any indication that there's any wrongdoing, we'd be meeting with FBI right now. And I can tell you we are not. Now, FBI might not take one of those cases. Let's say I do bring a case forward. Even though they don't take it, doesn't mean that we can't. We can. And that's why my position is separate. That's why the Attorney General's position is separate. We're the only two separate entities of the tribe. It's because of that, because we want to be able to investigate and prosecute wrongdoing even with our own administration, so.
Okay. All right, I appreciate that. I just know with an accusation at such a high-level cabinet position, which yields so much power, one would want to maybe look or see or ask for advice or guidance on that with the feds if it was necessary, and I'm assuming that you've made and assessed that judgment, so appreciate that. Appreciate you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions for Marshall Buell? Can we just rise for a minute and honor Brian Ketcher? A moment of silence, please. What up? Thank you, Marshall Buell, for your report.
Thank you for that as well.
Attorney Sarah Hill, Attorney General Sarah Hill.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
In deference to his family's wishes, we will try not to grieve Brian, but we will miss him. The AG's office works closely with the Marshal Service, and it was always good to see his face and to have his calm demeanor and his good humor in an investigation, and we're going to miss him a lot. I wanted to start by talking a little bit about the previous month. I don't think I was at the last committee meeting. I think Chrissy stood in for me, but I lose track sometimes. We went to the domestic violence conference the Cherokee Nation hosted, the Cherokee Nation AG's office did, and we provided a lot of the lectures for the 3-day conference. There was a legal track that offered, I think, 20 hours of continuing legal education credits, which is something lawyers have to have, and we taught on tribal jurisdiction, the Indian Child Welfare Act, special domestic violence jurisdiction in VAWA, access to justice and victims' rights, state and tribal criminal and protective orders, McGirt, and the domestic violence court review docket. So those were just some of the topics that I and my staff spoke at the domestic violence conference. It was very well received, and there was lots of good chatter from the groups of people when I would talk to them during the event. So I think it went extremely well. So we were very pleased to contribute our expertise to that event as well. We have had ITC since the last time I saw you, and I didn't get to attend as much of ITC as I would have wanted, but I did. It's the one time where all the lawyers of the 5 tribes are sort of in the same general vicinity of each other in person. So I always take the opportunity to talk about the many legal challenges that the tribes are facing, and it was good to see all of them in person and get a chance to discuss that, and to see the leaders as well and get a chance to talk to them too. I also was able to make an appearance before the Not Invisible Commission, which came to Tulsa. The Not Invisible Commission is a Department of the, I think it's a joint commission actually, that's led by the Department of the Interior and is in partnership with the Department of Justice. And they're specifically looking at the issue of missing and murdered Indigenous people and going around to different places in Indian country to obtain testimony and information about what they could do, the United States could do to help deal with the crisis. I know they talked to victims one day, today. I know that the principal chief also came and spoke, and Marshall Buell and I were there one day as well and talked about, from our point of view, what we thought would be needed. I talked about some changes I felt needed to be made to the Stored Communications Act, which would include tribal court orders and improve the ability of tribal courts to obtain information from some of these social media giants. And also talked about the need for more resources in juvenile justice, because much trafficking of humans and many of the other issues that we see that involve our young people, gangs and things like that, that lead to people becoming missing and murdered, start when they're young people. And having a better intervention and having more resources from the United States would be helpful. So those are some of the issues we discussed with the Not Invisible Commission. And the marshals talked extensively about law enforcement in the Cherokee Nation, and the commission expressed, as they often do, surprise at the amount of things that the Marshal Service does in Indian Country. I don't have a lot of updates on two of the big ticket items that you probably all would like to hear about. Strobel, which is the Oklahoma Supreme Court Tax Commission case. There's no decision in that yet, and I can't tell you when it will be decided. And also Brackeen, which is in front of the United States Supreme Court. We're on opinion watch now, where it basically could be any time between now and the end of the session, which would be in late June. So any opinion day that comes up, we're eagerly watching that to see what will happen, but I don't have any substantive updates on that for you today. I do have a substantive update in Hooper, which is the Curtis Act case that I've discussed with the group on a few occasions. And oral argument in that case was held on March 23rd, and oral argument I thought went, extremely well. Counsel for the defendant in that case, the individual Indian, did an excellent job. Also, they're arguing on behalf of the amicus tribes. We had counsel arguing the tribal point of view. He also did an excellent job, as he often does, always does, that I've ever seen. So we feel like it was well argued, but then we also got an order a few weeks after that, with the court requesting additional briefing on the issue of standing, whether Mr. Hooper had standing to bring this case as a declaratory judgment. So that's sort of out of left field a little bit this late in the game. We don't know if the court always has to consider whether it has jurisdiction to hear a dispute, and standing is very central to that. So there's going to be some additional briefing on the standing issue. So that may end up being an issue. If that becomes an issue, the court may decide, we're not going to reach the merits of this. We're not going to get to the issues involving the Curtis Act because we lack jurisdiction over this particular case. So that could take it into a different direction altogether at the 10th Circuit. So those are the main sort of things I had in front of me to discuss with you today. But if there are any other questions, I would be happy to answer them to the extent
Do
that
we
I
have any
can.
counselor questions? Mr. Legg, Counselor Legg?
Hey, Sarah, good to see you. Since all the McGirt stuff has happened, we've, our exercise is our right to incarcerate and different things. Are we looking at a way for a pardon and parole board to, for the ones that we sentence, eventually get a pardon and then from there get an expungement? Has that process been worked out yet?
There hasn't been a process worked out yet to do that.
Yeah.
I think that I'll definitely put that on my list of things. I know it's something that has come up several times to have a discussion about, but it's not something we've got a process that I can lay in front of the tribal council
got you.
today. But I appreciate you asking
No,
about
you
that,
bet.
Counselor, as you've asked before about that.
We had a tribe up north, the Oneida tribe, and they came down a long time ago when we had the reentry program going, and kind of laid out the format of how and it's only through tribal court, and it's only good for tribal court. But anyway, that's just in reference, if you need something, that there is some in place.
Yeah, we do have some provisions in tribal law that point us to the direction that we would need to go, I think, to find authority for that. But it's not something that we have a well-defined plan on yet, Counselor, but I'll put that on my list. Thank you.
Counselor Dobbins?
Yes, Sarah. Just a recent press release cited, I guess, a 10-year-old case where we had a former Cherokee Nation Foundation executive director that was accused, I don't know whether there was a sentence, but accused of embezzlement. And it's been a 10-year ordeal and just came up in the press release here yesterday, I believe. Could you kind of summarize that case, the last 10 years, how we've arrived at this point?
You will be stressing my summarizing skills, sir, but I will give it a shot. I mean, there have been criminal charges filed against this individual for embezzlement. They were, as you indicate, filed some time ago. The case was moving along through tribal court in the way that criminal cases do. There were various challenges made by her counsel to the jurisdiction of the court, those types of challenges that were made. This case began pre-McGirt. Eventually, it got to the point that the case would need to be set for trial. There was a date that she was supposed to appear with her counsel, and neither she nor her counsel appeared for that court date. Ultimately, the court would issue an arrest warrant for her with a $10,000 cash bond. And so she would have to appear, come back before the court, pay the bond, and deal with the situation of failing to appear in court. What she did instead was move to Poland, where she has been for some time, and then recently filed a case in federal court against the Cherokee Nation, saying that that the federal court should find that the nation could not continue to have this case held against her, that she could not be held to account by the tribal court, that we were infringing upon her liberty, and that the federal court should find that she should be released from any conditions that the court had set upon her. And the nation, of course, we responded to that, defended the nation's jurisdiction and the nation's court and federal court, and the federal court decided recently, which is what prompted the press release that you saw probably, or the news story that you saw, the federal court dismissed her case. And so if she wants to handle the case, she will have to come to the tribal court and deal with Judge Bartow or whoever the district judge was who entered the order. I don't recall at the moment. So that's the situation with that case. So it's just one of many cases that we have. It's got its own sort of unique set of challenging circumstances. Not a lot of Cherokees go to Europe and evade the tribal court in that way. So I don't know that evading is the right word, but she's been in Poland, and if she wants to settle this issue with the Cherokee Nation court, she's going to have to come back to the Cherokee Nation, and she's going to have to handle it.
Do you think we should have an extradition agreement with Poland?
We can always call the Polish president and ask him, sir.
So as long as she stays there, we're just in neutral?
Yeah,
right? Okay.
that's right.
Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you. Counselor Teehee?
Good afternoon, A.G. Hill. It's good to see you.
Good afternoon, Counselor.
I have a couple of questions. And one of them actually pertains to Marshall Buell. So I'm not sure in what order you guys might want to take these.
Whichever order you prefer.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. Marshall Buell, in reference to Secretary Jordan, you mentioned that there was a report that was conducted. And I was wondering if the results of that report could be made available to council or possibly be made public.
I've just given that to council staff to get copies to you.
Okay, wonderful.
That's been
Thank
done.
you. Thank you. I always like to read the facts for myself in black and white, so I do appreciate the sharing of that report.
Yes.
And the question, and this second question may also pertain to both of you as well. There's been a lot of discussion about the detention facility in Texas. The detention facility that we are contracting with. And I do, there's also been some criticism about the speed at which the council came to that conclusion during that vote. And I do want to state for the record that I don't think that any counselor who is sitting as a member of this body has as a preference for our citizens to be detained at a facility outside of Cherokee Nation. But there are certain realities that we have to contend with as a tribal nation that is within the state of Oklahoma. So I was hoping that you might take the opportunity to kind of speak to the realities that we deal with as a tribal government and that you deal with as law enforcement and as the AG's office. Some of those factors that went into that decision to contract with the facility in Texas.
Yeah, I think that's probably best answered by Marshall Buell.
Well, let me tell you first, we did not take putting tribal prisoners in Texas easily. We didn't take it lightly. I will tell the council here and anybody that asks, I would much rather our tribal members that are incarcerated be here, close to their family and friends and community. That would be my number one. But the state of Oklahoma will not allow us to hold our prisoners in DOC. I wish they could. If they ever do, we will stop Texas and we will have them in DOC in Oklahoma. We do have jail contracts around the state through sheriffs. Sheriffs hold pre-hearings, so pre-trial ones for us. And we're always having to move the prisoner because, let's say, Cherokee County Jail fills up. Now we have to move them to Rogers County or to Washington County. So there's this movement of pre-trial inmates that happen daily, that we've now filled Adair County Jail, and now we have to go to somewhere else. It's not like we got more bad people post McGirt. It's just now we're responsible for the Indians incarcerated. So even if I had a jail facility here, a county facility, which we do not, that said, let me have your prisoners, I would need 100 of those beds. And then they'd have to have the ability to do post-trial confinement. And there's things that a prison can offer that a jail in Stillwell just can't offer, okay? But even, I can't even put all these prisoners in the jail facilities that we have contracts with now. I want to be very clear. If, let's say, whoever, Washington County decided to build a prison system here, or DOC said today, hey, I'll give you 120 beds at McAllister or El Reno or somewhere like that. I would personally be excited about that. Because it would get us out of Texas. I had two options after we did an exhaustive search. One was Texas, one was Georgia. And in my mind, Texas was closer than Georgia, so let's pick Texas. But it is not optimal at all. I want to be very clear. If the tribe and me had it differently, I would have them housed here so their family members could see them closer. And if we ever get to that point, I can tell you we're looking at studies right now about the tribe opening something here, and other people. There's the company that owns the place in Texas that we have inmates now are talking to the other tribes under McGirt to see if they want to build a facility here because they see that there's an issue that none of the tribes are being allowed to house prisoners in DOC.
Right.
So I wish that would happen in 6 months. If I had the money to build a prison today, you'll see it finished and staffed in 4 years. That's what we're looking at.
Okay.
And it'd be easy for me to say, yeah, let's do a 25-person or 50-person jail. The fact is we'd have it full and then we'd still have to go to Texas. You're looking at a 500 to 1,200 bed facility here. And that, you also got to remember, that's just adults. So if we have females, that's a different section, okay? If you have juveniles, that's a different section. And even within the juvenile system, which we now have, that we never really had to deal with before McGirt. So even in that system, we have hardened juveniles. Then we have somewhat hardened juveniles. Then we have mentally ill juveniles, drug-addicted juveniles. So there's about 9 different centers that we need here to facilitate just the juvenile issue that we have here. And then if you're talking about adults, so you have male and female, but then we have people that might be adjudicated mentally unfit to go to a regular prison, so that's a third section that we'd have to build. So these are all things that we're looking at very rapidly. We did not, I want to repeat, we did not sign a contract with Texas and throw our hands up and go, man, that's the best thing ever, and let's not look at anything else. We're constantly looking at options that we have to bring our people back to the tribe. I promise you, as long as I'm the marshal, we will try our best to get options back there. So is there any questions that I can help you with?
Well, I genuinely appreciate you speaking more in depth on this particular issue because I think that oftentimes when we are looking at decisions that are made, oftentimes individuals may not see all of the factors that play into those decisions, and that, you know, we're making the best choice out of choices we might not have selected. So the reality of being the Cherokee Nation in the state of Oklahoma also offers some limiting choices with the current Oklahoma administration, unfortunately. And I really appreciate you speaking more in depth to that and highlighting some of the challenges in detention, some of the factors that went into that decision-making process, and also highlighting the fact that we didn't stop here, that there is continued effort at investigation and planning for the future taking place.
Yes, ma'am. I want to be clear. If DOC called me today and said, can we meet on this tomorrow, I will be wherever I need to be to meet tomorrow. An example is we have youth offenders. Some are very serious youth offenders. One killed their mother with a gun. Oklahoma has just so many youth beds in it. So what Oklahoma did is they went and they pre-bought a bunch of youth beds, so we can't even use them. They're not using them. Nobody's in this bed. And I'm trying to find beds for our youth that these centers are like, all the beds are taken, and we know the center's half filled, but the state of Oklahoma's paying a nightly fee for that bed, and nobody's using them. We've asked the state, we'll pay you for the night stay for these youth. No, we got to keep them for ours. So I will tell you, I personally will speak to anybody I speak to, talk to anybody I talk to at our partners with the state to help fix this issue, because it is an issue. But it is not an issue that Cherokee Nation started. This is an issue that we could fix this issue if we had partners in the state that would allow us to be good partners. I mean, I'm not asking for free rooms at DOC. I would actually pay more than what Stillwell would pay at DOC for the inmates, but I can't get moving on that. So if they'll call me today, I will be there tomorrow, and we will get it worked out for you.
That is an unfortunate reality, but I appreciate the time, Marshall, and thank you very much, Chair.
Yeah. Counselor Crennan?
Marshall, I was just going to, remind me who can go to Texas? Is it a minimum sentence?
So first, we don't send any pretrial inmates to Texas. Okay?
Pretrial,
So
okay.
what that means is, let's say I arrest someone on a burglary today. We'll take them to a county facility that we have a contract with. They will stay there. They'll either bond out, depending on if there's a bond, and they can make bond, or they will stay there until our court date here at the tribe. So they'll go through the court. Once the court sentences them to, let's say, 2 years for this burglary, at that time is when we look at Texas and say, is that a best fit? Let's say he's sentenced to 3 months, or she's sentenced to 3 months. Then maybe that's not a good fit to send them all the way to Texas and back. But let's say it's a year. Let's just throw a year out there, down a year. Before their sentence is up, they bring them back to us. We put them in one of our state county facilities to finish out the last couple of weeks of whatever their sentence is here, so that we can start that integration process back. So they won't be released in Texas with a bus ticket. We'll bring them back here, put them in the facility here to finish their detainment, and then they'll be released to the community here. Does that make sense?
So convicted
Convicted people, yes.
and
Now that is right now, okay? Like I said before, we're filling up the jails quickly. If we have no place to put a burglary suspect, then we might have to look later at moving pre-trial to Texas as well, but that's not something that's in the plan now. I just wanted to say that I can't sit up here and say we will never do that, okay? But right now, it is post-trial inmates.
what you mentioned a while ago about men, women, and all the different various juvenile needs that we have. Now, Texas covers many of those?
They cover the male and female, adult. We do not send any juveniles to Texas. That's why juvenile beds are so sought after here. We're not the only tribe that's looking. Every other tribe is looking for these same beds. There's only so many juvenile beds in the state anyway.
But right now, it's convicted.
Yes,
Folks.
convicted. Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
going to Texas.
Thank you.
Counselor No Fire?
Yeah, Shannon, appreciate you addressing that issue. I think that, I mean, I hate to say it and it has to do with politics, but when the rich wage war, it's generally the poor that suffer, and that's kind of what we're happening play out with our inmates, and it's really a culture issue, but I can guarantee you one thing. I know there's been some apprehension being able to get some things moved across, like what you're saying with the state. Give me a chance. Give me a chance to go help out with that. You can call me. I know people in the state. There's no question that. And being a legislator, that would be my responsibility, just like being able to vote on the decision that we agreed to, that this council agreed to with our inmate agreement down in Texas. But, you know, I would definitely be all ears to help out where I could, you and Attorney General Hill. So if there's that opportunity that shakes loose on your side to be able to make contact or otherwise move something, let me know. I'd be more than glad to help, and there's no question that I have some ability to help out with that. But after all, it still is a culture issue. I mean, we know that even when we had the inmates beforehand here in the state, it was full. And we talk about the juvenile issues and mental health, and that's just culturally, unfortunately, where we're at in our society. And I think we all here want to see prison rates drop, mental health drop, domestic abuse drop, but those are all societal culture issues, and hopefully we can all, and I know people do desire to try to address that and solve that issue, and so hopefully we can get there, and I appreciate you guys for what you do.
Well,
Thank you.
Councilman No Fire, I appreciate the offer. I really do, but I want to be very clear. Whatever council person asks me to do that, those of you who know me in West, you know me as well. I believe in our Constitution beyond anything. I believe in the Separation of Powers Act. I really do. And me as a person separate, I feel like I would be overstepping my constitutional bounds by coming to any council member to try to work. I truly believe that, and I've not been told that by anyone. I believe that should be handled between administration and the council. Now, I will be there to support anything that I can do, but I think I am overstepping my bounds that you've given me if I come to any council member and try to negotiate stuff like that with any entity. I don't want to sound mean. I don't want to sound like I don't care. I do, and I appreciate the support of the council on everything we do as marshals. But I think that we should always do it the right way, and I try to do that with me. But I'll be more than happy to speak to administration, to have meetings, to do whatever we can to help our people, no matter what that is. But I just feel like I can't just come to a council person and say, I need money for this, or I need this, and I need this. That's not appropriate for me to do. So.
Okay. Does anybody have any more questions for Counselor, or A.G. Hill?
I was doing so great.
I know, you're doing good. Okay, so we're going to go FOIA, GRA, Gwen Terrapin.
Good afternoon. It's good to see all of you today. When I filed my report the other day, there were only 8 requests on there. But as of today, we've had 3 more come in, so we have 11 now, and 5 are outstanding. And those will be updated in the next couple of weeks on the website and everything.
Does anybody have any questions for Gwen? All right, you're good to go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Election Commission, Marcus Fears.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You guys have my report. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Anybody got any questions for Mr. Fears? Okay, you're good to go. Thank you. Sharon Swepson, please. Tax Commission.
Good afternoon. I'm sorry I've missed the last couple of meetings, but it's good to be back. You do have my report, and I just wanted to point out a couple of things that on our motor vehicle through February, we're about 1% more than where we were in revenue last year, so we're hanging in there, and hopefully it'll continue to grow. June is when all the boats and everything renews, so that usually takes quite an effect on it then in the month of June. But we're hanging in there on that one. Then on our revenue and taxation, we have an increase of about 26%, and if you look at the graph, most of that has to do with retail sales. So that's where the biggest growth is at in our revenue and taxation, is on the retail sales. Also, we've got our office open in Stillwell. It's growing, it's continuing to grow and do well. We've got the new Catoosa office open, so it's continuing to grow. So that's all I have, unless you have questions.
Does anybody have any questions? Counselor Callison?
Yes, ma'am. When we do a boat, have we made that a little more accessible through the nation to tag and license your boat than what it used to be, or?
Yes, we now are able to get the numbers and everything, so it's not, used to, we had an issue getting the numbers from Oklahoma, but we no longer have that problem, so it should be pretty simple to get a boat tagged.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you, Ms. Hudson, appreciate
All
it. Next up, self-governance, Ashana Mills.
Good afternoon, Council.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you. You have my report in front of you. If you have any questions, I welcome those.
Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Mills? Miles? No, guess you're good to go.
Okay.
Have a
thank
good
you.
day.
Thank you so much.
Gaming Commission, Janice Purcell.
Good afternoon. Thank you. I submitted my report. Additionally, several members of the staff went to Oklahoma Tribal Gaming Regulatory Association meeting at River Spirit, and one of the staff was awarded a scholarship. She's been attending college, and she did get the Jess Green Scholarship. So that's very impressive, and her name is Rebecca Seaton, and she's the supervisor for Roland Salisaw Compliance.
Does anybody have any questions for Janice Purcell? I guess you're free to go too.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Human Resources, Samantha Hendricks.
Well, good afternoon. Good to see everyone. Beautiful day outside. So I'm going to stay with the standard. If you have any questions, you have my report. I'll be happy to answer. But I do have a couple of things to add. So one is I wanted to give an update on the open interviews, which we implemented on March the 14th. We've had some good response with that. And we've had now, when we do, let me kind of explain what an open interview is. We have a particular time, the staff is available between a particular time where they can come in and somebody off the street can come in and interview for a position. And sometimes we can hire them on the spot. We're trying to work that direction, because obviously it depends on the position. And then we try to, everybody does get an interview that comes in, but we also try to get them in touch with that hiring manager that they're interested in the position, so that they can interview right then instead of going through the whole apply for a job, wait, and keep going. So we do this with some of our hard-to-fill positions. So if we have internal applicants that are interviewing for positions, we try not to interfere with that process, because we do know that they're internal. They would do that. So I wanted to give you an update that we've had over 100 that have gone through the process in the last month, since March. They have all received preliminary interviews, and some are still in the process of the interview. I mean, we're 4 to 5 weeks in, so they're still kind of in the process. After a month, we've had 16 hires that have gone through. Obviously, we know that we're filling the pipeline, so we anticipate more hires from that piece. And that consists of HR, of course, we always look at applicants when they come in, the health, which include nurses, housekeepers, patient access reps, phlebotomists, Job Corps, language department, and maintenance. So there's others, but those are just the highlights. So we've done the team has done a really good job as far as, accepting that change and making that adjustment that direction. So we still have our current process where you can apply for positions and go through the normal process. But in addition to that, we also have implemented a new hire survey to kind of get feedback from our new hires, from the candidate experience, so we know where we have things we need to work on. We've had some good responses. There are a couple of things that have picked up that we need to look at and dive a little deeper into some of the details and work on a little bit more. But all in all, it's been really some good responses that we received. Lastly, I've been in this position about 17 months, so it just has, I'm new, still a little new in this position, not brand new, of course. And I have seen this team really grow, and I just wanted to there's 81 employees, so we've grown as far as our team. We've done a lot of changes. The team has really been good. I just wanted to call out, and we've got 4,600 employees we take care of in all different aspects of HR, and they have been an exceptional team to work with. And I go up here, I come up here and I talk about all the changes that we're having, but I really want to take a minute just to really say, that team has done an exceptional job, and they have really taken the changes that I've come to say, hey, we need to do these different things, really embraced it and really made some changes. And in all my 32 years of HR, I've never worked with a team that's been so dedicated to the Cherokee citizens. They really are an amazing team to work with. So anyway, saying all of that, I just had a few minutes. I wanted to make sure that I called that out because they're really a good team to work with. So.
Does anybody have any questions for Samantha Hendricks, Human Resource? Councilor Crittenden?
Thank you. I just always like to thank people for their being available and sometimes we get questions that we need a pretty good answer so we can get that one off our plate and go to the next one. And so thank you for that and your personality, your hard work, what you've done in those 17 months. Years ago, I had somebody that works kind of where you're working ask me what I was doing in their office. Fixing to ask you some questions and maybe even a few more since you said it like that. But you've always been real personable and helpful, and I just gotta thank you for the work that we're doing in such a short time.
Thank you, Counselor. I always like to recognize the team. They,
Well, they're
the team,
great too.
you have a
They're
good
great,
team
too.
behind you. It's easy to make that happen. So,
I thank you a lot. Keep up the good work.
thank you. Pass it along.
Councilor Sam?
Like Sean said, thank you to you and your team, always available, but I know pay raises, there's been a subject of that lately, and we know that our minimum wage got bumped to $15, which is double state, federal minimum wages. How is that looking across the board? And also, I guess, when you start evaluating when minimum wage goes up, everyone else's pay structures go up. How's that research looking?
Yeah, we've looked at all of that, and of course, we're on track, just as we planned, which is $1 a year, all the way up to 2025. So everything, we evaluate it every single time, and to make sure that we the compression issues, we don't experience that compression issue. So it's looking good. We're in the process, because it's a long time, so that we go through this. But yeah, everything's good.
All right, any other questions? All right, you're free to go. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
Okay, no old business, new business?
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
I'd like to
Councilor
amend
Austin.
the agenda.
Okay.
Mike?
Thank you. I'd like to amend the agenda to add a resolution approving a letter of credit agreement and granting unlimited consent to be sued.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed?
Just had a question about that.
Okay, Councilor No Fire.
Yeah, I just had a question. I see that we are agreeing to bring suit by JP Morgan Chase Bank for non-compliance with an agreement. Did we get sent over a copy of that agreement that we were in non-compliance of, so we have a better look at what we failed to?
Terry Lee?
Can't speak to what we were in non-compliance of, but I can provide that document to you. It was a matter that the AG's office settled for us, so I can have Attorney General Hill speak to it if that'd make you more comfortable.
Yeah, just so that way I know what exactly we're agreeing to.
So the question is just why we're adding a limited waiver now, and why we didn't have it in the first place?
Well, and not just that, but why we're being sued. I see that it was resulting for the nation's noncompliance with the agreement, but what's the agreement? Which agreement is that, I guess? I didn't see an agreement. I just got this letter on my desk today that we were being sued.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm sorry. I'll have to look at your letter.
It's a,
It's not being sued, they didn't have the limited sovereignty
they
language in there.
didn't have, oh, okay,
They didn't have the
okay,
limited
sorry,
sovereignty, that's the
sorry.
only change, that's why it was not
Good, so this is
completed.
adding it to that.
This
Okay,
is
at first I
adding
was
the-
like, whoa, hang on a second.
Yeah.
I just seen this today, and sorry.
Yeah.
I sat down
Okay.
10 minutes ago, and I was listening to everybody.
No,
So-
all they did was add the limited
Okay,
sovereignty
so it's
in
just
it, it wasn't, that's why we're in
adding it to a
non-compliance.
contract. Okay, it wasn't added in there. Okay,
Okay.
perfect.
Did you have another question, or was that answer your
No,
question?
that's it. I'm glad everybody here helped clarify that for me, so.
I love it when you guys
Yeah.
solve your own problems. I still don't even know what you're talking about. That's the best way.
So we're
Little
good to
house
good?
cleaning, and they helped clean me up, so, perfect. Appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, so we're all good, that's passed. Good to go, Shelley?
Yep, we have to.
And then we now to pass it, we're gonna take a vote on that. You wanna go ahead and read it, Keith? Yeah, we're gonna read, Counselor Austin?
Okay. I make the motion to enter a resolution approving a letter of credit agreement and granting a limited consent to be sued.
Second. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that passes. All right, I need announcements. The next meeting is tentatively scheduled for Thursday, May 25th at 1 PM. Does anybody have any announcements? I need one more motion. Second. All in favor? All right, you guys have a blessed day. Thank you.